First, I would say that change is coming. All shall be revealed in due course.
Wow.
Right?
Hi, Weeboos. Welcome back to the WIUI Podcast. And as you can see, we have Pak Tom Lembong back here in the WIUI Podcast.
Thank you for having me
Welcome
again.
back, Pak Tom.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you. And I mean, wow, so many things are happening, yeah, Pak, yeah. And we do want to talk a lot about the economy and about the criminalization of a lot of professional lately. But before that, I do want to address the elephant in the room here. And that is, where is Andovi, right? Andovi is not here because he is currently shooting a film, Pak Tom.
Excellent.
And he wants your thoughts on this.
Okay.
So apparently, he's shooting a film, and the premise is he is a governor candidate that cannot lie.
That's hilarious.
What do you think of that?
I think it's a superb premise.
It's a super
premise, right?
He's, if I'm not mistaken, he's gonna be like the Jakarta's governor candidate or something. It's like a movie about that. That's all
Fantastic.
I can disclose.
Yeah, no spoilers, right?
No spoilers, absolutely.
But sounds to me like a great premise.
It does.
I think in the current environment, or as you Gen Zs like to say now, in this economy.
In this economy, exactly. And I think that is the perfect segue for our podcast today, because I think that sentence can encapsulate what we're about to talk about. So in this economy, right? I remember you coming to the WIUI Podcast. I think it was around a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. It was
almost. Maybe 8 months, 9 months.
That's true. It was like around October,
Something
September.
like that.
Yeah. And I remember you mentioning about, we need to be very wary of where our economy is heading. And I do remember, I think it was like off camera, you told me and Andovi specifically, buy Singaporean dollars. And because you're like, we are not heading toward, it's not looking good, and you guys need to be more intentional, and you would love to talk more about the economy. And so here we are, we're going to follow up on that.
Thank
a lot
you.
of the
Thank
things
you.
that you said have come true, I think.
Right.
So yeah, can you maybe like kick us off with what is going on with the Indonesian economy?
Right. Thank you, Abigail. It's good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, right, the center of all attention has been the rupiah exchange rate and the Indonesian stock market, right? Stock market went down as much as 30% plus, from beginning of the year. It's recovered somewhat, and the rupiah is down 6 to 7% year to date, which makes it the worst performing currency in Asia.
Yes.
Our stock market is also the worst performing stock market of 90 stock markets around the world, tracked by Bloomberg, right? Now, first, the currency and the stock market have recovered over the last 1 week or so. And that's mostly down to kind of a relief rally in global markets in the aftermath of President Trump signing this so-called peace deal with Iran, and markets are looking for an excuse to rally. And so markets globally went back into what's called risk-on mode, right? And so that was enough to break the fever afflicting Indonesian capital markets. Yeah. And I would describe it as a fever. Yeah. So it was like a wave of selling. I think various news outlets called it a doom loop. A doom loop. And that's the Wall Street or finance industry's term for essentially a vicious cycle.
I see.
Right? Lingkaran setan. So it's like the government announces some policy which crashes investor confidence in the markets, that causes a wave of selling of stocks and bonds, it puts pressure down on the currency, right? The government panics more, announces yet more market unfriendly policies that then exacerbate the downturn, and on we go, right? So that's what's called a doom loop.
I see.
But markets fever does break at some point, meaning fever breaks and the temperature goes down, right? Markets don't normally drop all the way to zero, right? And they also don't grow to the sky, right? So whether it's a huge market rally or whether it's a huge market downturn, markets do tend to stabilize at some point. They sort of the momentum runs out of steam, right? And they stabilize for a little while, at least, before resuming a fundamental trend down or up, right? And so right now we're in a bit of a respite. Again, mostly thanks to external circumstances, the signing of that putative peace deal between the U.S. and Iran, which then has caused oil prices to drop. The market's sort of relieved, very hopeful that flows of crude oil and refined fuels and other commodities like fertilizer will resume through the Straits of Hormuz soon, right? To remind us, roughly 20% of the world's oil and gas, maybe as much as 50% of East Asia's and South Asia's oil and gas flows through the Straits of Hormuz. So it was a huge supply disruption when, in the aftermath of the ill-advised U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran, right? Iran closed the Straits of Hormuz. The International Energy Agency called it the largest energy shock in human history, right? Suddenly, the world lost around 10 to 15 million barrels per day out of call it 110 million barrels per day global supply, like global demand of crude oil, and that's a lot. So I think during the 100+ days of war between U.S., Israel, and Iran, I think the world's lost something in the order of 1.3 to 1.4 billion barrels. That's a big hole to fill, right? But back to what's going on with the economy, right? So we're in the midst of a relief, market relief period, market respite. But I remain very cautious. I remain quite pessimistic on the short-term, medium-term outlook. Yeah. So my advice hasn't changed from what I mentioned to you and Andovi late last year. Anybody and everybody who hasn't done so yet, please open a bank account for hard currency, rekening valuta, and keep as much of your savings in US dollar, Singapore dollar, euro, or anything, right? Because from here, the rupiah still has a lot more downside. Yeah, I mean, it's stabilizing for the moment, but my prediction is it will resume its downward trend soon.
Okay, so you mentioned a lot about geopolitics, right? They're affecting the fever break, and also why we're experiencing the fever in the first place. I know that a lot of narration online says that, oh, you know what's happening with the rupiah and the stock market, it's because of geopolitics and because of what's happening internationally, not domestically.
Right.
What do you think of that?
I think it's a silly argument,
okay,
right? Because as I just mentioned, the Indonesian rupiah is the worst performing currency in Asia. And the Indonesian stock market is the worst performing stock market in the world by a fairly large margin. And so, yes, these geopolitical events like the energy crisis due to the Straits of Hormuz crisis, right, affects everyone. It doesn't affect everyone equally. The USA is a large energy producer and a large energy exporter. So in many respects, their oil and gas industry, for example, is benefiting tremendously from the skyrocketing prices for oil and gas. But many other countries are badly impacted by this energy shock, but their currencies are not collapsing, right? Their stock markets are not collapsing. And so as the international financial media has highlighted, these what's happening with our economy is a very Indonesia-specific issue, right? Our neighbors are doing just fine. Like Malaysian ringgit is not collapsing, Thai baht is not collapsing, much less the Singapore dollar. And then, frankly, another example of a country that's very badly impacted, maybe even more badly impacted by the energy shock than us, is Philippines,
I see.
right? When we import, by my estimates, maybe half of our oil and gas requirement, right? Maybe a bit less, maybe 40%. Philippines imports 95%,
Okay.
right? But their currency has not crashed, as badly as our currency has. And
I
so,
see.
yes, there's external trigger to our economic woes, to the rupiah collapse, to the stock market collapse, but really the reason we're not able to withstand these external shocks is because our internal policy has left us very vulnerable, right? Because we've squandered our fiscal buffers, our fiscal reserves, and our economic capacity on populist programs and other programs and policies, which frankly either are not productive, right, or even potentially counterproductive. So
Right.
we've got no money left with which to stave off the currency collapse and the stock market collapse.
Right. Can you talk more about the Indonesian specific problem that you earlier mentioned, and probably
Right.
why you are still quite pessimistic
Right.
about the short term, medium term way our economy is gonna
Sure.
unfold?
Sure. To be fair, our government is taking some steps to try to address the issue, right? So our central bank, Bank of Indonesia, has
Yep.
raised interest rates 3 times within 1 month,
Yep.
mostly unscheduled interest rate rises to signal to the markets that they're very serious about defending the exchange rate. That's helped stabilize the exchange rate at least a fair bit. But really, the reason this economic situation is Indonesia-specific, let me just quote the international media,
All right.
So they said it, not I, right?
Right. Right.
But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Reuters, for example, right, published an article on the Prabowo administration. And in the first couple of paragraphs, this Reuters article used the words chaotic to describe
That's very Gen Z.
to describe
Yeah.
our government's policies, right? So the title of the article was Prabowo's populist policies propel a doom loop in Indonesian markets,
I see.
right? And the sentence I'm referring to says, the Special Forces commander turned politician has run a chaotic administration since taking office in 2024, right? And frankly, that's very strong language. Like the international financial press doesn't normally resort to such strong words, right? They try to be polite and diplomatic. So that's a very, very strong word. It's extremely rare that that the financial press resorts to such blunt language.
But do you agree? Do you agree with their assertion?
I think most objective observers and analysts would have to agree, right?
I see.
Never mind what you think about the actual policies, the process by which our government is arriving at these policies, right? Not even minimal consultation, very secretive, small circle consultation only, right? Followed by large announcements,
Yep.
Catching even major stakeholders off guard, right? Including stakeholders in government itself, right? So when the policy of centralizing our commodity exports was announced,
Yes.
right?
We can talk about that more.
That's right. The announcement said that Danantara would be handling all commodity exports, and as was widely reported in the press, even the Danantara leadership, the top executives, had no idea.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, their comments in the media were, we're currently seeking clarification from the government, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I see.
on what exactly we're supposed to be doing here, right? So even Danantara itself apparently was not consulted on the role that they are meant to be playing in this very earth-shaking, large policy to centralize coal, palm oil, and base metals exports under Danantara. Right. So just, I think that's what Reuters and others like Bloomberg, The Economist, and others are referring to when they say chaotic. It's actually the process, not only the irrationality of the policies themselves, but the chaotic process whereby our government arrives at those policy announcements, right? And then a lot of times, a few weeks later, the policy is cancelled or watered down,
or
revised, or postponed, or given lots of exemptions, right?
And even the centralization of export, we're still unsure when it will be enacted now, right?
Correct.
Is it like soon? Is it like end of year? Is it like next year? I heard that a lot of people who are in the field are still very much confused.
That's right.
As to when this will be implemented.
That's right. That's really the order of the day, almost, right?
Yeah.
Utter confusion, because the news flow, the statements, announcements from various government officials keeps changing, right? Keeps changing. First the announcement is that this newly created entity, Danantara Sumber Daya Indonesia, or DSI, right, will handle all commodity exports. The latest version I've heard is that they will merely supervise, right, and then collect a fee. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Even a few weeks before that, government also announced that under the U.S.-Indonesia trade agreement, American customers for our commodity exports will be exempted from decentralization of commodity exports, right? I don't know if that's become official policy or,
there's a lot of hearsays.
That's right. I mean, it's beyond hearsay, right? These are
It's
official statements by the government officials, even cabinet ministers, who are responsible over these sectors. But whether those statements will translate into government regulations and when, is often very fluid, and investors have other choices, right? I mean, nobody is forced to invest into Indonesia. They have the ability to invest into Malaysia instead, or into Vietnam instead, or into Thailand, even into Singapore, right? So investors, both international and domestic, have choices, right? Like nobody has to invest into Indonesia, right? And that's becoming only more and more pronounced with the likes of MSCI, right? The standard, the index provider, continually talking about downgrading Indonesia's weighting in their global indexes, right? And potentially even drastically downgrading
to frontier.
Exactly,
right?
from emerging markets to frontier market status. I mean, that's only causing investors to reduce more and more the allocation in their portfolios they're giving to Indonesia vis-a-vis other markets, other countries, like I mentioned, like Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Eastern European countries. I mean, even if they want to stay invested into Asia, South Korea, Taiwan's got a booming stock market. So
I do want to talk about the stock market more, but before that, since we already touched upon the centralization of export with Danantara, I do want to ask you, so the government's rationale, right, is because there's a lot of under-invoicing which I mean, to put it simply, it's because a lot of export companies, they have another companies
Sure.
overseas,
A trading
and
unit usually.
yeah, and then they basically, because of that, Indonesia's supposed to gain more, but because they under invoice and use that roundabout way,
Sure.
they're trying to like curb that, right?
Sure.
So do you think that that is a good reason for this policy? Do you think that this policy, if done properly, can be a good thing for Indonesia? Is the issue only the implementation, or is it by design flawed?
It's by design, and that's not a flaw.
Okay.
Or as people like to say in the software sector, it's a feature, not a bug, right? That's very much
Okay.
by design. Transfer pricing is a practice conducted globally
Yep.
around the world, and there's very good reasons for it. Yes, some of it is tax arbitrage. Yeah. For example, in Europe, virtually all the large American technology companies like Amazon, Meta, Apple, right, Microsoft, base their European headquarters in Ireland
Yeah.
and sell into European markets such as Germany, France, Italy, and so on through Ireland, right? And so their subsidiaries in Germany, Spain, France, Italy buy iPhones, iPads, Apple devices from Apple Ireland. And Apple Ireland buys those devices from Apple USA, right? Now, why do they do that? Admittedly, Ireland's corporate income tax rate is 15%,
Okay.
whereas in other European countries, it tends to be more like 20, 25%, right? So it's completely rational for multinational companies, and so not only technology companies, but also large American pharmaceutical companies, right, to sell their stuff into Ireland first, for Ireland to then
Sell it to the rest
sell
of
it
the world.
to the rest of Europe,
Europe,
right,
yeah.
at a higher price. And a lot of the corporate profits of these multinational companies are then trapped in Ireland,
Yep.
right, or held in Ireland. And that's completely fair. That's completely official and legal.
Yeah.
Countries have a choice whether they want to compete on the basis of tax rates, which means they have to have low government spending, right? Or they want to compete on the basis of lots of government programs which consume taxpayer money, right? And therefore they have to have higher taxes, right? So that's just the nature of market structures, right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, not only Indonesian exporters of coal, palm oil, nickel, and other base metals often export their wares through another subsidiary
Yep.
in Singapore. But lots of companies do. And Singapore has highly attractive tax incentives,
Yep.
right? And it's not that it's tax only. It's not all about tax, yeah?
What else, Pat?
Places like Ireland and Singapore provide infrastructure. They provide certainty of law, right? Doesn't matter how attractive or how low your tax rates are, if your regulations keep changing,
Yeah.
right? If there's no certainty of law, if your courts are a mess, right?
Your
if your courts are corrupt,
communication chaotic.
right? Then Ireland and Singapore and other places like it would not be able to attract
Yeah.
trade flows or investment flows, right? In fact, I would say it's more those things. It's more the superb Singapore courts, right? The highly efficient, and this is acknowledged globally, right? It's the highly educated workforce in Ireland. It's the highly efficient government, right? The very streamlined policies, right? The very effective implementation of those policies that also attracts a lot of companies to put their Europe headquarters there. And the tax benefit is just a cherry on top, right? And so to say that this transfer pricing is a kind of fraud on the Indonesian tax office, right? Is to fundamentally misunderstand how the regional and global like capital system works. Yeah.
I see. So it is unfair to label them as under invoicing, right?
I'm sure there's some abuses. But based on my 2 decades plus experience with this, right? My personal estimate is not more than 5% to 10% of exporters, right, or importers under invoice.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, we have to remember the reality of global competition, right? If it's not Singapore, it'll be another jurisdiction. It'll be like a Hong Kong or Malaysia tried to do it for a while with financial center they were trying to build called Labuan, right? And they potentially offered even more aggressive incentives in terms of tax rates and whatever, but they could not match especially the institutional infrastructure that Singapore offers, the incredibly professional and efficient court system, right, where lawsuits are processed very, very professionally and very efficiently, could not match the clustering benefits where top banks, top law firms, top accounting firms are all clustered in Singapore. So it's like a one-stop shop, right? You can like world-class law firms from the US, from the UK, they have their Southeast Asia headquarters there, right? And so just the resources available in Singapore, Malaysia tried to replicate that and couldn't.
Right. So what would you say would be the impact domestically and internationally, I guess, towards this new centralization law?
It's a continuation of a trend, right? I think the current regime, frankly, was reasonably transparent during the presidential campaign about their philosophy and their approach, right? They wanted a bigger role for the state. They wanted to bring more parts of the economy under the control of the state, right? If you review their campaign promises or their policy platforms, it was very clear that they wanted to diminish the role of the private sector and essentially have the state or state enterprises take over a lot of the functions of the private sector. So, I mean, to be blunt, that's not pro-market, that's anti-market. And so we shouldn't be surprised if the market reacts badly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're essentially pursuing policies which are very anti-market, and so don't complain if the market then retaliates or reacts in kind, if you will.
Yeah, because like the market, you cannot persuade it with nationalistic narratives or you need to support Indonesia because of patriotism or things like that. They function, as you mentioned, as
rationally, and
they go where it has most incentive and where it makes sense, right?
That's right. I mean, you can often bamboozle markets for a period of time, right? But that space always runs out, like that room always runs out at some point, right? And this is where what you just mentioned by Abigail about communication comes in. Yeah. Right? Certainly, you're not going to be able to continue bamboozling the market if your communications are chaotic, right? Then the mask slips, or all the pretenses fall away, right? Like the true intention comes out, and markets respond again accordingly.
Yeah. And I do want to segue a little bit back to our stock market because I think from our conversation earlier, it seems that Indonesia's economy is very affected by foreign investors, right? And I mean, when the stock market plummeted, it's because foreign investors are selling in bulk, right? They keep selling in droves, basically. So can you talk a little bit more about like why do you think foreign investors are selling that much from our stock market, and why is our stock market so dependent on foreign investor too?
Right. So first, it's certainly true that there's a wave of selling happening, certainly by foreigners, but we should not underestimate the role played by domestic investors in the sell-off. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, lots of domestic investors are also selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Selling the currency, selling stocks, right? In fact, over the last 20 years, our capital markets, both stock market and bond markets, as well as currency markets, have become less and less internationalized. They've actually deglobalized, right? So our bond market, our government bond market used to be 45% owned by foreign investors.
Okay.
More recently, it was down to 25%.
I see.
Right? So foreigners have been selling Indonesian bonds and Indonesian stocks for the better part of the last 10 or 15 years, right? But that selling intensified tremendously over the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? Because they woke up to the realities. Now, in the meantime, who replaced those foreign investors? It's domestic investors. For example, our big banks became big buyers of government bonds. And biggest of all is our own central bank, right? So during the COVID pandemic, the central bank, in partnership with our Ministry of Finance, launched the now famous so-called burden sharing program, right?
Okay.
Where central bank essentially was printing money and then using the money to buy the government bonds from the Ministry of Finance,
I
right?
see. Okay.
And so by some calculations, our central bank now is by far the largest owner of our government bonds, up to 25%, like a quarter of the entire Indonesian government bonds outstanding are owned by our central bank.
I see.
Right? But look, the selling is not confined to just international investors. Domestic investors have been dumping stocks and bonds like crazy as well, right? So, in fact, in most situations around the world, it's the domestic investors who dump first, and the foreigners, because they're a bit more removed from, the situation, they catch on a little bit later,
I see.
and often are a little bit too late in starting to sell.
So when foreigners are selling and domestic are selling, what does that signal for maybe people who are not that familiar with stock market, right?
Sure.
What does that signal?
It's most easily understood as a vote of no confidence in a government or a market, right? Whereas the opposite, if there's a wave of buying, that's a kind of endorsement, right? It's a kind of seal of approval where investors are, the phrase is voting with their wallets.
I see.
Right? So they vote with their wallets negatively by selling and moving their money elsewhere, like to Vietnam or Malaysia or what have you. And they also vote positively with their wallets, right? By selling U.S. Treasury bonds or other holdings, right? And using the cash to buy into markets that they approve of, that they like. Right?
So I've read some narrative that I think it comes from people who are pro-government. So their line of argument, they say that it's okay that foreign investors are selling our stock market in drove because in return, the government is also bringing in a lot of foreign investor, which I haven't verified, obviously, but this is their narrative, because they say that foreign investor who are investing in the stock market are short-term investor who doesn't really, like do much for Indonesia, whereas the government are securing long-term investor that will invest in, like real infrastructure and things like that. So it's not really that we're losing foreign investor, but they are moving their investment elsewhere. What do you think of that narrative?
So again, it's fundamentally misinterpreting the reality of how stock markets and so-called foreign direct investment, or FDI, works, right? The vast majority of investors in stock markets around the world, including ours, are long-term investors, are buy and hold investors, right? They're pension funds, they're sovereign wealth funds that tend to buy into diversified portfolios around the world, right? The various blue chip stocks, and just hold them for the long term, right? The short-term investors, the speculators, tends to be a minority in any stock market or bond market, right? That's the truth. That's the reality. Do speculators have impacts, both positive and negative? Yes, absolutely. There is often speculative excess, both positive and negative, right? Sometimes the selling gets overdone. Sometimes the buying gets overdone, right? As I mentioned earlier, markets do experience what we call fevers, right? Positive fevers like FOMO, right? If you're missing out, and people chasing, buying in, worried they're going to miss out, right? Or negative fevers, right? Like selling because they're worried bad things are coming, right? And it can often be more of a sentiment issue, even though sentiment ultimately is rooted in fundamentals, right? But are FDI investors necessarily long-term stable investors or stable capital? I would say no, not at all. This is a bit technical, but one very underappreciated reality of foreign direct investment, FDI, is that it goes both ways. So investors not only put money in to build factories, highways, and so on, they also keep money in by reinvesting the profits. Right. But they can also take those profits out. Right. And so really, we often get trapped in what's called gross foreign investment, but not net foreign investment. Right. So governments like to trumpet gross numbers. Oh, X billion dollars coming in. But really, you have to deduct the dollars going out in the form of dividend repatriation, coupon payments extracted by investors,
Makes sense.
From Indonesian bonds, Indonesian projects, Indonesian highways, that if they felt good about the country, they would not take them out from the country, they would keep them inside the country, and the term is to reinvest, right, into other stocks or into the same stocks, right, because they're quite positive about the future of that particular market or that country, right? So actually, for the last few years already, most multinational companies have been fairly negative on the at least near-term prospects of Indonesia's economy. And so that's why every second quarter of every year, the currency will tend to get weaker, because all the dividend payments. Second quarter, third quarter is when most big companies have their annual shareholders meeting, declare dividends, right? And the phenomenon called dividend repatriation, right?
I see.
Foreign investors or local investors who own Indonesian assets through foreign entities, like holding companies overseas, they prefer to take those dividends out, and move them into U.S. Treasury bonds or into Singapore dollar deposits or what have you, rather than taking those dividends and keeping them in the country and reinvesting them into the same companies or into other companies or other instruments.
Okay. Pak Tom, I do want to ask you this. So I suspect that not a lot of people are that familiar with the stock market.
Sure.
Right? And a lot of people might think like, okay, so what if our stock market crashed? I don't play the stock. It doesn't really affect the people's day-to-day life. It's only the problem of the rich elites who plays the stock market. How would you explain, how does the stock market actually affects like the overall economy? What would you say to that?
So the stock market is a symbol, right? Is a hugely important indicator. It's kind of like a thermometer or barometer, right? That expresses investor sentiment generally about a country or about a market, right? Even people who don't own stocks will be impacted by a collapsing stock market, right? Because the levels of share prices, the levels of dividend yields, and as I mentioned on another occasion, on another podcast, bond markets are even more important than stock markets, right? Even you don't own bonds. The level of bond prices, the level of bond yields, then dictate the interest rates on housing loans, KPR, right? The interest rates on credit cards, interest rates on consumer loans. Like everything is priced from benchmarks, such as the yield on our government bonds. So there's a very direct impact to the cost of capital across the entire economy, and that cost of capital is set by the stock market and the bond market and the money markets, right? Like the currency markets. So give you another example, the price of rice, beras, say Indonesia, like across the country, is practically determined by one single market, which is Pasar Induk Cipinang.
Okay.
So the big rice traders, the bandar, right?
Okay.
I mean, they buy rice from all over the country, and really have visibility on market conditions in different provinces, right? And they essentially determine the price of rice for Jabodetabek, for Kalimantan, Sulawesi, right? By taking into account transportation costs, cost of insurance, right? When you have a ship full of rice, it needs to be insured, right? When you have a warehouse full of rice, it needs to be insured. And so costs like insurance, storage, transport, which are also driven by price of fuel, right? Those are all taken into account when these big wholesalers, these big traders set prices, wholesale prices for rice. So this is sort of an analogy for how one little tiny market, on the outskirts of at the city borders of Jakarta, Pasar Induk, Cipinang, decides the price of rice
everywhere, all over the country.
All over the country, in the same way, the capital markets, the stock market, the bond market, and the money markets, including the currency markets, set the price of capital.
I see.
Around the entire country.
I see. Now, speaking of bond market, very recently, I mean, now we're recording at 22nd of June. So very recently, the government announced Meraputi bond that is issued by Danantara.
Okay.
So not a lot of information has come out of that yet, but one of the issue that is making controversy is, I'm gonna read it so I don't get it wrong, but in the recently ratified, I think, UU P2SK, it says that whoever buys the purchase of this bond, right? I'm gonna read the Indonesian first. Negara menjamin dan melindungi pembelian instrumen surat utang khusus sebagaimana dimaksud dari penuntutan secara pidana umum, pidana khusus termasuk di dalamnya pidana perpajakan, dan dari gugatan secara perdata. So basically it says that the instrument that you're purchasing will be protected from pidana umum, from tax. What is pidana? I forgot now.
Crimes.
Crimes,
you know,
yeah.
like basically from criminal prosecution.
From criminal prosecution,
Right.
there we go. From tax criminal prosecution,
Right.
from the general
Right.
prosecution, from also
special
perdata,
special crimes.
civil court. And I mean, and a lot of people are like, whoa, what is going on?
Right.
What do you think
Right.
of this?
So, what you just read about Abigail sounds to me beyond just protecting the instruments themselves, right? It sounds like an explicit promise to not criminalize people who buy these bonds, right?
We will not jail you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
basically it.
in simple language, that's what it says. We promise not to jail you in the future
If you buy this,
if you buy
bond.
these bonds, right? Well, the first obvious reaction is, why does the government even have to make that promise in the first place?
There we go, because it sounds very strange, right?
It's very, very strange.
Uh-huh.
I mean, again, maybe our policymakers lack perspective on how this kind of language or policy is perceived overseas, right? Because
Okay.
investors, never mind globally, but even right next door, in like Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, I mean, they would be startled by such a promise. Like, their reaction would be, shouldn't that be automatic? Like, shouldn't that be very basic?
There we
right?
go.
Like,
Why should it be written explicitly?
or
right?
why is that even needed? Right? Like, not being criminalized should be a basic right and not like a special promise.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, this bond is it's quite similar to the Patriot bond that were released last year. And if I'm not mistaken, this is directed specifically to Indonesians, so not
Right.
really foreigners.
Right. Well, foreigners might not worry about being criminalized, right? Because they can just
Yeah.
stay outside the country.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is for Indonesians specifically.
Well, the other thing that would be the obvious reaction, right, is does the government have a kind of track record that makes investors believe these promises? I mean, the reality is there's been a wave of criminalizations,
Yep.
right, afflicting people, including yours
Yours
truly.
Exactly. I think you are like the person to talk about this.
And a favorite phrase in markets is talk is cheap. Talk is cheap, right? So if you're serious, please follow up with actions.
Talk is cheap, even if that talk is ratified in the official regulation.
Yeah. I mean, especially at this point, right? When, again, their words, not mine, right? International media, ranging from Reuters to Bloomberg to The Economist magazine, Financial Times, and others, have clearly pointed to a dramatic loss of confidence in our government by investors around the world, and even domestic investors are voting with their wallets through this quote unquote sell Indonesia doom loop, right? But really, if you're really serious about not criminalizing, then stop the current criminalizations, right? The Pertamina case, the Nadim case, the sugar industry case, which was my case, the venture capital case, right, where venture investments that didn't work out are being criminalized as state losses, and the investment officers who made those investment decisions are being accused of corruption, right? Just if you're sincere about not criminalizing investors, then stop the current criminalizations. Right. I mean, that's basic. That's very, very basic. Yeah. It's kind of like, two partners in an abusive relationship, and the abuser promises to not abuse the other partner, right, going forward.
Right. Writes a letter.
Writes a letter or something, but doesn't stop or change their current behavior.
Right.
So continues abusing, doesn't stop the current abuse, but makes a promise to stop such abuses in the future, right? Like how is that credible?
Right. So
you
would
know,
you say
in any way?
would you say we are currently in an abusive relationship with our government?
I would say objectively, and I think more and more commentators, not only commentators, but analysts, right, including ones who have no axe to grind, right? I mean, they don't have any interest as such to damage Indonesia. Quite the opposite. Many of them have spent their careers trying to help Indonesia or trying to promote Indonesia, right? But I think more and more analysts can objectively state publicly that there are widespread abuses of power.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Okay, so you did mention a little bit about the venture capital case. I do want to zoom in on this because I heard somebody says, if I'm not mistaken, it was Nico Wijaya's lawyer who claimed that this is the first case of its kind anywhere in the world. I haven't fact checked it, but at least in Indonesia, but he did claim like anywhere where a venture capitalist is criminalized because their investment didn't pan out.
That's right.
So it's the first case of that kind here in Indonesia, or even maybe perhaps the world.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that? So it's the case of Nico and then William, Donald, and Aldi, right?
Thank you, Abigail. So I mean, I've spent the last 25 years in hedge fund, private equity, and venture capital, right? In one form or another. Even when I became a cabinet minister, right? I was actively engaged with the venture capital community, right? Because it was an important part of the investment community as such, right? I can certainly support Pak Nico's lawyer's statement as far as the following. Yeah, I would agree that this is arguably the first and only ever case in any major economy. Yeah, so depending on your definition of state or country, there's around 170 or 190 countries in the world, right? But the top 20 countries account for more than 2/3 of global GDP, right? Maybe even more. As much as 3/4 of global GDP is generated by just 20 countries. And then you add on, not just the G20 or top 20, but you go to top 30, top 40, they generate the vast majority of the global economic output every year, right? And yes, it is, I think we can objectively say it is unheard of that a venture capitalist would be jailed, would be indicted and then prosecuted due to making a venture capital investment that then fails. Yeah, and one reason for that is because venture capital is designed to take high risks, right? They're investing in cutting edge frontier technologies and products, and most such products fail, right? So again, it's widely known that investors will lose money on roughly 70 to 80% of any venture capital portfolio anywhere in the world.
70 to 80%.
Yeah, so 70 to 80% of any venture capital portfolio will lose investors' money. Yeah, those startups, those companies that the venture capitalists invest in will either fail and close down completely and 100% loss on the investors' money, or they continue but return less than 100%, right? So an investor, a VC fund, might invest $100 and only get back $60, right? So they lose money on the investment. And only 20% generally of any venture capital portfolio will actually make money. So only 20% of the companies the likes of Tanihub, Gojek, Bukalapak,
Yep.
Traveloka, and so on. Only 20% of any such startup companies will actually generate a positive return, right? Or at least return investor capital, right? And frankly, in Southeast Asia, over the last few years, the numbers are even more extreme, right? As much as 90% of the companies in any Southeast Asia venture portfolio will lose money for investors.
Yeah.
Only 10% or less of VC portfolios in Southeast Asia actually return more than 100 cents on the dollar, or generate, first are able to return investor capital and then generate a profit on top of the investor capital. So, I mean, the rule of thumb in the VC industry globally is out of 10 investments, 6 to 8 don't matter.
Yeah.
You'll lose all your money on them. 1 to 3 will do okay, and 1 will drive the entire
Right.
fund.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is, for this specific case, right, the Tanihub BRI MDI case, what do you think is going on? What is happening? But is it because our law enforcer doesn't really understand VC? Is it due to a lack of knowledge? Is it a malicious intent? Is it, I don't know, what is going on?
Right.
What do you think is going on? Of course, we
Right.
have no idea of knowing, right? But what do you
Sure.
think?
I think this goes back to several years ago when the regime in power started weaponizing law enforcement agencies, right? But previously, in many cases, those law enforcement agencies were weaponized to achieve political ends, right? To threaten or punish leaders of political parties, for example. But lately, it seems the purpose of the law enforcement agencies is shifting, right? It's not so much, or not only, to keep political party leaders in line, right? Or to keep the elites in line. I mean, frankly, it's almost like a public secret, right? Like, the business community is rife with reports of extortion,
Yeah.
threats to pay up, right? Officially and unofficially. Or the criminalization will occur or intensify, right? And I think the problem with all this, couple of things, right? First, anybody who will read the actual formal indictments, the dakwaan, in any of these cases, whether it's tin mining case, whether it's the sugar import case, the Pertamina and oil and gas, case, to this venture capital cases, right? The indictments, the dakwaan, are constructed very absurdly.
Yeah.
Very, very absurdly, right? Maybe the most prominent example was the Pertamina case, where when the Attorney General's office announced it, right, they alleged 10,000 trillion rupiah state losses, right, due to this phenomenon they called oplosan, right, blending, fuel blending, right. Now again, it's these documents are public, right. The dakwaan, or the indictment, is a public document. The conviction is also a public document, right, and that issue of oplosan or blending didn't come up at all.
I know.
In the indictment or in the verdict, right? And so what that suggests, right, Abigail, is that law enforcement agencies are going for sensation, for spectacle, right? 10,000 trillion rupiah state losses, up from 300 trillion or something, right? State losses, trillions and trillions and trillions, and the sort of theatrical, theatrical display of mountains of
They're
cash, right?
they're rage baiting.
Right. So that's those mountains of cash, right? Of rupiah bills are not actually funds seized from corruptors, right? When they're borrowed from state banks, they're borrowed from the central bank, right? Just for display purposes, and then returned to those banks.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are they doing?
Right.
Why would law enforcement agency
Right.
need to play theatrics?
Well, it's a continuation of a trend we've seen for the last 10 years, which is populism, right? Right wing and left wing, or any kind of populism, right? Where really your goal is to go viral, right? So on the one hand, we have no viral, no justice, and
Right.
Viral has helped many people wrongfully.
So they're playing
criminalized.
that game too now.
I think since the very beginning, right? I
Right.
think they hit the jackpot with the tin mining case in. From what I remember, it would have been spring 2025, maybe.
Okay.
Which just blew up, right? I mean, this announcement of 270 trillion rupiah state losses triggered the public.
Right.
It caused this public explosion.
Yeah.
And from there, the accused were effectively already
Rendered guilty, right?
already rendered guilty in the court of public opinion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And from there, actually, the law enforcement agencies had an easy time victimizing and extorting the accused, right? And I think that's been such a successful game for law enforcement agencies,
Okay.
though some are better at it than others. KPK tried to play the same game, and it backfired on them, at least in the case of Ibu Ira Puspadewi, right? Where, again, similar to my case, the president stepped in and gave Ibu Ira,
Yes.
of the CEO of state-owned ASDP, our national ferry transport company, right? So-called rehabilitasi, right? Rehabilitation, because the reality is that under her leadership, that company produced record profits,
Yep.
not state losses,
Yeah.
right? And the acquisition that she was accused of, doing that caused state losses was actually a big profit generator, right? Was a big source of profits and improved ferry transport service quickly, across many regions of the country. And so the president, intervened
Right.
because the indictment just made no sense.
So recently it seems like there are more and more of these types of cases, of the state financial loss cases, of the
right.
absurd corruption indictment. Is this a trend that is going on recently, or has this always been going on? It's just that we're not aware back then. Because if I remember correctly, I think it was your case broke the public awareness
Right.
that
Right.
these kind of criminalization is actually possible. Because
Right.
I think before your case, when
Right.
once somebody is branded as a corruptor,
That's it.
right? It's like a witch hunt.
That's right.
If they try to defend themselves, people will be like, "Oh, corruptor, why are you playing victim?"
Right.
Right?
That's
but
right.
but after your case, I remember
Right.
it entered the public awareness that actually, a lot of corruption cases are highly political. And I think after your case, maybe people started to realize and
That's
notice
right.
more cases.
That's right.
Is that the case? Does it seem like there's more cases because we are more aware, or has there always been these types of cases, in your opinion?
There has not always been this kind of cases.
So
or
this
approach.
is a new trend.
This is a new trend.
I see.
I would say starting, 3 to 4 years ago, right? Where evidence is just fabricated, just completely made up, right? And used to threaten or jail, as I mentioned just now, initially political opponents, right? Or people who were not obedient, were not complying with the wishes of the regime.
Yep.
I think a couple of cabinet ministers were jailed, possibly correctly, right? I mean, there might have been something there in terms of actual corruption, right? But why them, right? Why not
Right.
the others? I mean, they're not the only ones doing
Yep.
corruption, right?
Yep.
But lately, it's something totally new, right? It's first of all the scale of it, right? The scale affecting large sectors from tin mining to the sugar industry. I mean, the sugar industry is a key pillar of the entire food industry,
Yep.
right? Food and beverage industry. To it doesn't get bigger than fuel, right? I mean, fuel is used in everything from transport to agriculture, right? To airlines,
Yep.
to now palm oil.
Yep.
So in the wake of these transfer pricing allegations, I understand the Attorney General's office has been calling in the top 10 palm oil companies in the country for interrogation and investigation, right? And so, again, we shouldn't be surprised that investors then run for the hills.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So this is new. This did not happen prior to, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago.
So, okay, I understand that, weaponizing
Law
enforcement agencies for political gain, like for example your case, it was quite obvious what was going on, right? But I feel like lately there has been the cases that has been going on, the reason is very unclear, right? What are they trying to gain from going as hard as this to these people who has no maybe political stakes, So I just feel I find it very difficult to make sense of these cases. Like, why are they happening?
Sure. Well, let's look at the patterns.
Okay.
Look at the patterns, right? I mean, lately, more and more of the cases have been investors, including venture investors, or industrial investors, right? Sectoral investors, like the palm oil plantation companies. I mean, let's not think that quote-unquote investors are only people who buy stocks in the stock market, right? But our entrepreneurs, our pengusaha, our business people are investors. I mean, they're investing family capital or reinvesting corporate capital. Right. In fact, they're the largest investors, like our very own large companies, our coal mining companies, our banks, our palm oil plantation companies are actually the biggest investors in this country by reinvesting their profits.
Right.
So again, if you look at the national accounts, the single largest source of quote-unquote investment, the way it's defined in macroeconomic or econometric terms, is actually what's called reinvestment of corporate profits. So these palm oil plantation companies, right, they have a choice. They can take their dividends out and invest into other countries, or they can reinvest those profits, those dividends and the corporate profits back into their business or into the sector, right, or other sectors domestically. So lately, the vast majority of people who have been indicted have been economic actors, not political actors, right? So not so much ministers that I mentioned earlier, right? A few years ago, a couple of ministers were jailed, ostensibly because their party fell out of line, right? Went against the wishes of the regime. But now, Pak Nadiem might be a policymaker, right? But he's also a big entrepreneur, like a big businessman who owns a sizable shareholding in one of the most important, certainly one of the most economically important companies in the country, which is Gojek, right? Or officially listed on the stock exchange as GoTo, right? And so one wonders whether, for example, the goal eventually would be to confiscate Pak Nadiem's stake in GoTo and transfer it to Danantara, for example.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, again, this is speculation.
Speculation,
Speculation, but you have to wonder, given the recent trends, right? And the regime's fairly long-standing, transparent, openly admitted desire for the state to take over more functions in the economy, right? One has to wonder whether that's the end game. The goal is to confiscate Pak Nadim's stake in Gojek and GoTo and transfer it to a state entity such as Danantara?
Wow. Okay.
I mean, again, we have to disclaim, this
of course,
is speculation.
This is speculation, theory.
right?
Nobody knows because nobody knows.
So that's the other really big issue, right, Abigail, is lack of transparency.
Exactly.
Lack of transparency, and the intimidation of academics and analysts who actually try to unpick this, right? Who try to, to bring clarity and transparency and rationality or analysis to these cases, right?
Okay, so obviously,
there's
no way that the goal of the state is to, make us look back for foreign investor. That's it's probably like an unintended consequence. But what are they trying to achieve with these criminalization? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to like. And again, of course, I'm not saying that you know the answer, right? It's just like we're trying to create some possible hypothesis to make sense of this.
Right. So I would say two things, right? First, officially, it's to achieve the policy goal of essentially a dominant state in the economy, right? So state dominance over the economy through state entities such as Danantara, state enterprises, seizure of palm oil plantations, by the palm oil task force, and just generally rolling back the private sector and expanding the state-owned or state-controlled sector. That's the official policy. I mean, that's not a secret. That's actually acknowledged by all levels of the current government, right? All the way to the top. I mean, they've said, they want the state to do more things in the economy. Officially, that's the reason, right? That's their policy goal. Unofficially, and again, to be lawful here, and not spread unsubstantiated or make baseless allegations, right? But I can say that again, the business community is rife with reports of extortion. Right? I'm hearing abundant reports of threats to pay up, unofficially and officially, as I said earlier, right? And so I think we have to be open to the possibility, especially given the lack of transparency, given the absurdity with which indictments are being constructed, right? That is another agenda driving this wave of criminalizations.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. And I think it relates to, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, like the government spending, right? And it has been noted by a lot of other news outlets as well, like a lot of populist programs that are extremely expensive, and we have no way of knowing how will the state bankroll these program sustainably.
I mean, the normal way to do it would be to raise taxes.
And they have been, right?
Well, they tried to raise their consumption tax, the VAT.
Right.
But then there was such a public outcry, right? They watered it down, right? And then, now you're right, Abigail. So now there's all these little charges, right? All these little levies all over the place to plug fiscal deficits arising from these costly, large-scale populist programs. But look, any asset seizures that result from this criminal prosecution will be a drop in the bucket compared to the size of the fiscal hole, right? And so the palm oil plantation company, Wilmar, deposited something like close to 7 trillion rupiah in cash into a kind of escrow account as security, as like a collateral pending final resolution of their case, right? So even if the entire 7 trillion was confiscated, if the prosecutors were successful in getting the indicted party.
Sorry, what case is this?
Wilmar. This is palm
Wilmar.
oil.
Okay,
That's, one of the top 10
Mm-hmm.
palm oil plantation producers, palm oil producers, palm oil plantation operators in the country, right? So they put that deposit, that good faith deposit, right? But even if the prosecutor succeeded going all the way to district court, high court, Supreme Court, and eventually that 7 trillion was confiscated and transferred to state coffers, to the Ministry of Finance, it'll be a drop in the bucket compared to the, frankly, tens of trillions or hundreds of trillions of deficit that we're currently facing. So it's a very, again, unorthodox and generally irrational approach to raise revenue.
Right. So would it be safe to say that you are more suspicious that this current trend of criminalization is, it's a trend because of like there's like an orchestrated reason behind that, whatever that is, as opposed to it being, haphazardly one-off case that just so happened to be caught by the public eye due to maybe like incompetency here, misreading here, an error in judgment here, but it's actually like a trend because of like a bigger purpose.
So again, one complexity with issues like this is that the answer is both, right?
Right.
It's both part of a coherent philosophy, right, and strategy, as well as absurdly executed, right? Incompetently executed. So it's not either or, it's both. I mean, again, the indictments, if you read them, are absurd, right? In the case of Pak Nadiem, a transaction that converted a loan into equity between two companies was alleged by the prosecutor to be funds corrupted by Pak Nadiem. But Pak Nadiem is nowhere in that transaction. It's a transaction between two companies. Right? So how, and in fact, it's a non-cash transaction.
And not just Nadiem, right? Ibrahim Ibam's case in relation to that is even more absurd.
Right.
Because he was just a consultant in a private yayasan, right?
Right. So he's not a policymaker.
He's not a policymaker.
He's not a decision maker.
No.
He's not even a vendor.
He's
just a consultant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so again, it's this kind of absurdity that amplifies suspicion. Right. I mean, if the cases were well constructed, it's very clear, right? And again, some of the previous corruption cases, even though they were maybe politically motivated and politically directed, there was something there. It's very clear that, they took money. There was a flow of funds, right? And they even admitted it, right? But lately, there's no flow of funds, right? There's no mens rea or ill intent, and the prosecutor often even admits that officially, right? In their charges, and the judges often admit that officially in their verdicts, right? So then it's natural that the public becomes more and more suspicious, right?
But so because of this recent trend, right? Of course, it affects how foreign investors are looking at Indonesia, how domestic investors are looking at Indonesia. Hence, like the Meraputi bond needs to explicitly state, like, you know what, we promise we won't imprison you if you buy this bond. But not only that, right? I think it has affected deeply our young talents. Probably the people who are watching now, I've received so many DMs, both in my personal account and in WIUI, and I've seen in my timeline so many young people. Some of them are diaspora, some of them are young professionals already working here. They dream about contributing to Indonesia, but now they're scared. And they don't think that that dream is no longer worth it, And I mean, listening to what you're describing with the economy, with the trend, and it doesn't sound like it's getting any better soon. What do you say to these people? Like, what kind of mindset should they have approaching making a career in Indonesia?
Sure. First, I would say that change is coming.
Okay.
And
Very
soon.
ominous. Okay.
And soon.
Soon. Okay. What do you know that we don't know, Pa?
All shall be revealed in due course.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
But as I've actually been saying since a few months ago, we will not have to wait long for fundamental change to come, right?
No.
And it has to do with markets,
Okay.
right? Has to do with fiscal trajectory, right? The fiscal condition has to do with many things, but which I will unpack, which I will outline on a separate occasion, right? But we will not have to wait long for fundamental change to come. So be a little bit more patient, be patient a little bit longer.
So change towards the better, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Entirely possible things get worse before they get better, but change is coming. Change is coming, and eventually for the better.
Is there like a window of patience that we need to we can expect?
I think right now I would say, don't worry, you won't have to wait that long, right?
Okay, you're
Number one.
killing me here. Like, can you give me like more clue? You cannot just dangle this and then just like see you guys next time.
The second thing I would say
Okay. I can't. Okay.
is that Indonesia continues to be a great prospect over the medium to long term, right? And I've been consistently saying that for the last 3 years.
You have been, and I do remember like back in the previous episode that we interviewed, you said that what we're experiencing now, the terrible, terrible things are an anomaly.
Exactly. It's an anomaly. It's only in the last 3 or 4 years, right? And this anomaly will go away. And when we go back to the real Indonesia, right, it's going to be great. And that moment will be happening not too long from now, right? So you just have to be patient a little bit longer.
Okay.
So, and actually look like this. Legendary investors like Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway, right, have proven the wisdom of being contrarian, right? So when everybody's selling, actually it's time to buy, right?
Yes.
When everyone's buying, it's arguably time to sell, right? And
Yes.
amidst this global AI boom, Berkshire Hathaway has been selling, right? They're now sitting on like $500 billion of cash.
Right.
The largest cash balance in the company's 40, 50-year history, right? And look, I wouldn't say right now it's time to buy when it comes to Indonesian rupiah or Indonesian stocks. Arguably quite the opposite. There's probably an opportunity for people to get out
Right.
if you haven't already. Like if you haven't bought dollars, now's a good time to buy, right? Mumpung dollar lagi turun, right?
Right.
If you haven't been able to exit your stocks, right? Now it's a
Exit
great
them.
time to sell.
To cut your losses now.
Absolutely. Exit now, since the market is rebounding, it's a selling opportunity, right? I would say. But as I continuously emphasize, right, our biggest asset as a nation is our people.
Yeah.
I mean, really sincere, good-hearted, hardworking, right, responsible people. And as I keep emphasizing, right, I mean, I spent my childhood in Germany, right, in Europe, traveled around the world, worked in the US, of course, studied in the US, worked in the US briefly, worked in Singapore and elsewhere. and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. The Indonesian people are among the best people in the world, right? And one of my favorite sayings is, as you might remember, character is destiny.
Yep.
And at the national level, the equivalent is culture is destiny. And actually, we have a wonderful culture, right? Again, what we've been experiencing over the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years is an anomaly. This is not the true Indonesia, right? I urge everyone to not lose sight of the true Indonesia. Yeah, we are actually a wonderful people. We're an amazing people, and don't allow a 1% of the people or less, much less, to cause all of us, the 99%, to lose hope, right? The 99% are not like this. It's only the 1%, who are causing all this trouble,
Right.
Secondly, like this, I want to invite everyone to help roll back this feeling of powerlessness, this feeling of kita tidak berdaya, ya. Siapa kita? Kita hanya rakyat. Kita hanya bisa berdoa, right? Like, who the hell are we? We're small people. All we can do is pray. Nothing could be further from the truth. Like, the power resides with the people, right? Again, it's 99 against 1. And that's the people. And your voices matter. So thank you again, Mbak Abigail, Mas Andovi and team, and everybody in the podcasting ecosystem, right? For continuing to voice out the truth, right? For rolling out, content that educates the public. And let's combat this feeling of helplessness, right? Again, all shall be revealed in due course, but actually the people have a lot more power than they realize. Yeah? One of the strategy of populists and authoritarian-minded leaders around the world is to induce this feeling of powerlessness, is to induce this feeling of hopelessness, right? It makes populations passive and accepting, right? But we need to start rolling back this feeling, right? And again, it'll take a bit of time. It'll have to happen in stages, but I officially launch my effort here today to all of us collectively start to roll back this feeling of helplessness, this feeling of nggak berdaya.
Okay, I completely agree, Pak. I like what you said, character is destiny. The equivalent of that is culture is destiny for a nation. And the culture is undoubtedly created by the people, not by, the government or the people at the top. But what the viewers will obviously ask is, practically, what can they do? They've tried demonstrating, they've tried voicing out their voice.
Right.
We've went through massive demonstration that resulted in almost nothing.
Right.
So what can we realistically do, and what kind of culture should we cultivate then?
So first of all, it's not true that all your efforts have amounted to nothing.
Okay.
It's really, really not true, right? I mean, those demonstrations last August or thereabouts into September really shook the regime to the core. Yeah?
Really?
Absolutely. And did have a huge impact. It's just that they don't want you to know it, right? The regime is maintaining this facade of unshakability. But trust me when I say that things are turning very fragile, very fast, even internally, right? And it's completely untrue that all your protests online and offline are not having any impact. Yeah. The more you put the truth out there, like the more you will get closer to your goal of justice and fairness, right? As I've emphasized before and will keep emphasizing, truth is power. Truth is power. Truth is very, very powerful, right? Probably second most powerful force in the universe after love, right? So if we say love conquers all, truth will win in the end, right? And so what activists, influencers, academics are doing when you voice out truths, realities, facts, is very, very powerful. It takes time, and these phenomena are subject to what I call cliff effect.
Okay.
Yeah. So same with stock market, right? Like stock market doesn't deflate gradually; it collapses, right? The opposite also happens. Stock markets often, go up and up, and suddenly they spike up, right? So maybe one phrase that's more familiar is like the straw that breaks the camel's back,
Yep.
right? So you keep loading more and more onto the camel, and it seems fine, right? And you keep loading more and more. It's like, wow, amazing, you know? Like you keep loading more and more onto the camel, and the camel seems fine. And then you just add one straw, and the camel just breaks, right? So keep doing what you're doing. Keep voicing out the truth, right? Don't think that what you guys are doing has no impact, right? In fact, it all rests on all of you guys, on all of us, to keep doing what we're doing. Secondly, take care of yourselves. Take care of your personal finances. Take care of your family finances.
Yep.
And most importantly, learn. Yeah, belajar. So another strategy of populists and authoritarians around the world is to deprive their populations of information and knowledge, right? And so there's so much business opportunity. There's so much opportunity for generating income, even at the personal individual level, right? But the government is not feeding that information to the public. The public just doesn't realize, just how much opportunity there's out there for everybody to if not get formal jobs, then certainly be productive and generate income, actually, right? So I'm committed to kind of a one-man public education campaign, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'll try to socialize through podcasts such as yours, where those opportunities might be, right? And what it would take for an individual to capitalize on those opportunities and generate income and whatever. I'm far from the only one. I think there's a lot of business influencers who are highlighting opportunities, right? To make money, and also to manage your personal finances or your family finances responsibly. But just take care of yourselves. Stay safe, stay healthy, invest in your health, both physical and mental, and learn. I mean, one shortcoming of ours is we're so deprived of relevant information. We're so deprived of actionable knowledge, right? That we can translate into real income, and real career progression.
So can you share some of that?
Okay.
Actionable knowledge, tips for financial planning or literacy for people who are watching to get through this economy, right?
I'll give you a preview, and again, I'll continue outlining these in more detail in weeks and months to come, right? But one simple one, right? So we've just explained how only Indonesia is imploding. Only Indonesia is doing badly economically, the currency, stock market, everything, right? Our neighbors like Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam are doing amazing, in fact. Thailand's not doing amazing, but they're doing fine, right? But one consequence of the weakening of rupiah is that we've already seen a noticeable uptick in Malaysian tourists into Indonesia.
I see.
Right? And as the rupiah continues to go down in value, Indonesia will become irresistibly cheap. Irresistibly cheap, to tourists from Malaysia, from Singapore, right? So expect the tourism sector to boom. And so that's one sector where there's a lot of opportunity, right? Whether you want to be a tour guide, right? You want to be like a local guide, or you want to set up a culinary business to cater to those tourists, or or export directly to neighboring countries.
I see.
And for example, I like to give the example of an acquaintance, I guess, right? Kind of part of our network, young woman who was a illustrator, like a digital illustrator. She draws, and there are websites where customers from around the world tender out, assignments, projects, for digital illustrations like gambar,
Yep.
drawings. So, for example, architectural firms would want drawings of what the building will look like, right, at sunset, in bright sunshine, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you can now generate some of those images using AI,
Yeah.
right? But there's still a big market for the human creation, right? Or even book illustrations, right? Books need illustrations, comical ones or diagrammatic ones, whatever, right? Like the books you guys are publishing.
Yeah,
And rich countries find it much cheaper to outsource assignments like that to illustrators in developing countries,
right.
right? And so this woman in Sumatra, who's a illustrator, gambar, right? She sells a lot of her services to customers in the West,
I
in
see.
Europe, in the USA, and receives hard currency for that, right? So both tourism and selling your digital products online fall under the category of what I call services export. Right, so you're actually exporting services. You're not exporting a good necessarily, right? But you're selling your service as a local guide, as a tour guide, right? You're selling your service as a illustrator or as a music composer, as a photo editor or video editor, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it. You can do it. Would it be nice if the government led the way on some of these things? Absolutely. But I think at this point, it's fair to say probably not a smart strategy to rely
On the
excessively on the government,
yeah.
right? It's, we've got to rely on ourselves and on each other,
Yeah.
right? So ask around, right? Draw inspiration from others who are blazing the trail, right? Doing things like this. But these are just some examples of real income generating opportunities that I think people can start to
Right.
tap. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think that's a really good advice. What I'm hearing is first we need to switch our mentality. I mean, I feel like I myself have been a victim of, sometimes feeling overwhelmed and helpless in the grand scheme of things, reading national scale problems and issues.
That's their strategy.
Exactly.
It's called flooding the zone.
Yes, exactly.
Right? It's to induce overwhelm and confusion and ultimately fatigue, right? Just, it overwhelms you. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is actually, it's okay that if we feel like we can't fix the nation scale problem, right? But if we look at our sphere of influence,
Exactly.
and if we look at our local community,
Exactly.
there's so much that we can still do.
Correct.
And the mindset needs to be, we need to be resilient, to be resourceful, to
Correct.
survive this time.
Correct.
Right?
And in coming weeks, I'll be rolling out more suggestions how our citizens can navigate the challenging economy.
I see. Where
Again,
can they access this?
Things will potentially get worse before they get better, right? Food prices will almost certainly be moving higher because fertilizer prices jumped in a week or two after the invasion of Iran triggered the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, through which about 20% of the world's fertilizer flows, right? Well, it's under discussion. I'd like to continue making my rounds to the popular podcasts.
Okay, got it.
But maybe I'll also try to put more short video content, like monologues on my YouTube channel
Got
or
it.
on various websites of organizations that I'm affiliated with.
Got it. And I mean, you're always welcome to come back here.
Thank you,
This
Abigail.
platform.
Thank you.
I guess one last question, Pa,
Sure.
to close this off. I think this might be on the minds of a lot of people, and I think this can be quite practical. I know we've touched upon this a little bit. I just want you to go over this
Sure.
in more detail, just in more detail. So you're saying that it might get worse before it gets better, right? And worse meaning we're probably heading towards a crisis. Can I say that?
Very, very possibly.
Very possibly.
Very, very
Okay.
possibly.
So can you outline the sequence of events to look out for if we are actually heading towards a crisis? What are the signals? And then what are also the signals that we are heading towards recovery, actual
Right,
recovery?
right.
What would be the sequence of events, you think?
I know it's killing you, right? And I'm sure our viewers are similarly
Okay.
keen, right?
Right.
Desperate to hear me kind of narrating, Netflix style, right? Andovi style, maybe.
Yeah. Andovi would be crashing out if he's here right now with curiosity.
The so-called blow by blow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But let me put it this way. I don't even have to outline it to everybody. It will be very obvious. It'll be very obvious, right?
Okay.
You'll know it when you see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, just again, will reiterate my advice to everyone to open a hard currency bank account.
Okay.
Right, rekening valuta, and whatever savings you've got, right, convert as much of it as you can into US dollars or Singapore dollars, or if you're a bit more adventurous, into euros, right, if you want to diversify more. I see a lot of comments in my social media saying it's such a struggle to save money at all, right, much less convert any savings into hard currency. And my response is, even if you save 1,000 rupiah as savings, right? If what you have to do is collect 20,000 rupiah notes and just have a stack of 20,000, 50,000 rupiah notes in a safe place in your home, that's savings, right? If you have just a small stack, just maybe an envelope even of a few $5, $10, $20 bills, that's hard currency savings.
Okay.
Obviously, hard currency in physical form will not generate a yield for you the way a hard currency account at a bank will. Right? You'll get interest on your dollar account, which you won't on your dollar cash, right? But right now, the goal should be to protect our purchasing power, right? Protect the real value of our savings, right? And the best way to do that right now is to diversify our savings into stable currencies. Yeah, I get this question also a fair bit on the social media. What about gold?
Right.
Gold is also a good investment. It's also a form of hard currency, but be careful. It's much more volatile. It's much more fluctuative, right? Than cash, than hard currency cash, right? It also doesn't generate a yield as such, the way a hard currency bank account would, right? And it's good as a long-term asset, yeah. But be careful, because if you need it in an emergency, you might be forced to sell it when the price is down.
Right.
And so, again, hopefully I'll be able to put out there to the public more nuances and details about how to think about such things.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pak Tom, for coming over to the WIUI Podcast again. I personally think this session has been very informative and hopeful also. I'm very curious to see your next move also. I'm sure everyone's dying. I have no idea, guys, so don't blame me, okay? But we will be watching. That too. Ini bukan podcast bapak anak ya, guys ya. But yeah, no, thank you so much for what you said, and I'm excited to see what you said pan out. And I guess we'll survive this together.
Absolutely.
Right? See you next time in our episode, and maybe see you next time in our WIUI podcast as well. Thank you, Pak Tom. See you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.